Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Hey, good to be with you, folks. Welcome in on this midweek edition of the Stigall Show. You know, in all the heavy news, and there has been plenty of it, a little light news, particularly as we look on the Salem News Channel at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from across the river there on the Jersey side. Home base, Philadelphia's AM 990, The Answer, our flagship station. I would be remiss if I didn't brag for a minute, and it completely slipped my mind yesterday, and I meant to mention this, that the Philadelphia Phillies have clinched the NL East. And I'm sorry I'm late to the party on that, Fast Eddie, but there is much to celebrate in Philadelphia. Of course, we've been caught up in a lot of very heavy news, naturally. So, granted, I understand in the full panoply of news that's out there, that doesn't rank as significant, but it's a bit of a bright spot for Philadelphians and surrounding area, those that are fans. It's a good time to be a Philadelphia sports fan, is my point. Now, for those of you that hate Philadelphia sports, maybe that's not great news. But anyway, I've been there through some of the lean years. So to see them get to this place. Now, how optimistic are you? They were so dominant, the Phillies, Fast Eddie. How optimistic are you in the postseason? Because this is about the time of year, once they're rolling and they clinch, you start to get sour.
Yeah, I don't trust Aaron Nola in the postseason, and I just don't.
See what I mean, folks? See what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? This is what I'm talking about. No matter how dominant, it wasn't like they walked away with the NL East, and Fast Eddie is already counting on them losing. I hear it already in your voice.
Yeah, sorry. It's the story of a Philadelphia sports fan, right? So when we ultimately won the World Series finally in 2008, that came off of like 3 years of winning and clinching the division and doing all these great things. So we underachieved and won one World Series of that whole dominant run. So if we can get one out of this 5-year stretch, that'd be nice.
All right, Eagles in the Super Bowl twice. You got now they're running again 2-0 right now to start. The Phillies have clinched. Fast Eddie's in there already waiting to be picked off that they're losing. What's wrong with you? 855 Stigall is our telephone number if you want to get in here today. All sports fans welcome, not just Philadelphia sports fans. Just thought I would share that bit of note. They were having some fun with that yesterday, and I was it just completely slipped my mind to mention that. Speaking of, I guess let's stay with Pennsylvania for a moment. The next president of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, wants a word on speech. Who am I talking about? The diminutive, pocket-sized little governor of Pennsylvania, of course, is who I'm talking about. And those of you who don't know this man's name, get to know it. Covered him for a long time before we launched our nationally syndicated program at the beginning of the year. I'm talking about Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. This guy has been campaigning for president since he was in a onesie. Since he was a mere county commissioner, he has been salivating for the moment that he could step into the Oval Office. He has been written about glowingly for years and years and years in Philadelphia and broader Pennsylvania political publications as the next president of the United States. The minute he was elected governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it was Philadelphia media that began to write 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the next stop for Governor Shapiro. I mean, it was like he had not even taken office yet, and they'd already declared him president of the United States. Fast Eddie, can you confirm this or not?
Oh, I can confirm, Chris, and even our Philadelphia magazine we get at the studio, Josh Shapiro. Is this our next president? This is 2 issues back.
Is that the most recent, or is that just one edition that's come out lately?
It's not the most recent, but the one before that.
Okay, I missed that one. Sorry, I didn't get the glossy magazine cover. Is this our next president, says Philadelphia Mag. That's what I'm talking about. Philadelphia media is they've been gaga over the idea of President Shapiro. But nobody's been more gaga over the idea of President Shapiro than Josh Shapiro. Trust me. He wakes up every day and hums Hail to the Chief as he gets dressed, looking in the full-length mirror. I'm convinced of it. So far be it for him to miss out on an opportunity. The murder of Charlie Kirk, he decided to surface and give us all a good talk about speech and how we all need to tone it down a bit. Because, after all, as any good Josh Shapiro story, he's in the center of it and knows all too well the consequences. Number 73.
We need to create more opportunities for peaceful and respectful dialogue, respecting each other's fundamental rights as Americans. Censorship, using the long arm of government to silence people, to silence businesses and nonprofits and restrict their right to free speech, well, that will not solve this problem. Prosecuting constitutionally protected speech will only further erode our freedoms and deepen the mistrust. That is un-American. There is a better way. There is a better way, and that better way is the Pennsylvania way.
As a guy who's lived under your reign for a while, let me speak to the Pennsylvania way. Is the Pennsylvania way shutting down business, church, and school? Is that the Pennsylvania way, Fast Eddie? What's the Pennsylvania way in terms of speech? You've lived under it your entire life.
The Pennsylvania way is more so, yes, all those things, shutting down church, school, and business, but then, when Josh was AG, then going to the added step of suing to keep those institutions closed, to ensure, using the long arm of the law, that they stay closed when the government says so.
Yeah. The Pennsylvania way. I love it. Now suddenly we should not use the long arm of government to silence people. Do I need to get out the montage? Do I need to break out the montage? It might be a good day for the montage, boys. I'm not asking for it right this second, but ready the montage. Always important to revisit it and remember just exactly where the cries come from in terms of silencing you and me. The long arm of government to silence people. We can't have that, says Josh Shapiro. But he's at something called a hate speech summit Is that about right? I don't even know what this venue is. Something to eradicate hate speech, as if there's even a way to do so, whatever that means. Whatever hate speech is defined as, do we even have a definition on it? And see, this is, of course, what we were talking about yesterday. When you start to get obsessed with finding people who are engaged in hateful speech, hate is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? We know what the American left deems as hateful, and that is anything that comes out of our mouths that opposes them. Anything. So if they're in charge, make book on it. Anything you're saying is deemed hate speech. That's almost a guarantee. So anyway, yesterday, and I thought this an interesting day that all of this started to pop open at the exact same time. Scott Jennings said it beautifully over there on CNN. Take a listen. Number 74 here, boys.
I think his point would be strengthened if he were honest today about who burned his house down. You know, it was a Free Palestine leftist who came and burned down the governor's mansion. He left that out. He left that out of his tweet today, and he's talking about cherry-picking political violence, and we're talking about where there might be political violence. The violence against the governor of Pennsylvania and his family came from the left. And so I think there's a rush by Democrats who want to be president in 2028 to try to turn. Somehow Donald Trump's friend gets shot, and now everybody wants to blame Donald Trump for it. I guess that's what you have to do to get elected president as a Democrat.
We are not doing that sitting here, okay? And Kate,
I'm
please
sorry.
go ahead.
Is that not what's happening? People are pointing.
The governor's point is it doesn't matter where the
No, that's just a tremendous point. We're going to somehow try to steer this back to Donald Trump, and people who vote for Donald Trump are responsible for killing Charlie Kirk. That's always the inference when it's all said and done. If you just weren't so principled in your stand on things. See, and again, we're back to hate speech. Who determines what is hate speech? They determine that anything coming from our mouths is hate speech. And thus, when someone on the right, Donald Trump, is shot at or Charlie Kirk is murdered, really, when it's all said and done, it's the rhetoric that we've got to tone down. Eric Schmidt, having none of this, the senator from Missouri that we hosted on the show not too long ago, number 83.
We've heard years of the left, their loudest voices calling anyone on the right extremist MAGA Republicans, fascists, Nazis, an existential threat to democracy. Check yourself. And don't give me this both sides, bull. Mr. Director, I want to ask you. Tell me if each one of the following perpetrators or alleged perpetrators were acting from a left-wing or right-wing political violence. The man who tried to kill Republican congressman at the congressional baseball practice, nearly killing House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Left-wing or right-wing violence?
Sir, I believe it was a left-wing ideology.
Okay. Burned down cities during the Summer of Love in the George Floyd riots. Left-wing violence or right-wing violence?
Sir, I'll rely on you on these. I don't have off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay. Left-wing. The Waukesha Christmas Parade massacre. Left-wing or right-wing violence? Left-wing. The Lee Zeldin stabbing attempt, left-wing or right-wing? Left-wing. The Covenant school shooting in Nashville, left-wing or right-wing? Left-wing. The Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on President Trump, left-wing or right-wing?
Yeah.
Left-wing.
Okay. Right, and the list goes on. It's exhaustive, the list that he made in full. We may have to revisit it. And again, a little montage memory when we get back. You know, the reason we spent so much time yesterday talking about Attorney General Bondi and her comments that became infamous quickly. And incidentally, she made them on a podcast hosted by the wife of Stephen Miller, the aide-de-camp to President Trump, one of the most brilliant guys in the cabinet, which was kind of shocking to hear Stephen Miller's wife be the one to ask the question of, don't we need to do something about this nasty, ugly, vicious speech? And Pam Bondi immediately jumped in and said, oh, yes, we will find hate speech wherever it's found. That landed poorly on me. It landed poorly on lots of Americans who value the First Amendment, despite the ugliness. The Department of Justice will readily prosecute speech that crosses the line into threats of violence, she said Tuesday on this podcast. She later laid out her view on the legal limits surrounding free speech in an ex post, however, clarifying her comments that drew criticism. She began speaking out against harmful speech after numerous employers in the United States fired workers for endorsing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment, Bondi said. It's a crime. For too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer on political violence. That era is over. Federal law prohibits communicating any threat to kidnap a person or any threat to injure that person, as well as threatening public officials, members of Congress, their families. It is also illegal to dox or publicize someone's personal information in a threatening way or swat someone's home by making false law enforcement tips. These acts are punishable crimes. Every single threat will be met with the full force of the law. All good. That's fine. She says there's free speech, then there's hate speech, and there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie in our society, we will absolutely target you. Which, of course, led to the backlash. Bondi, once again referring to Kirk's murder Tuesday following the public outcry. It is clear the violent rhetoric is designed to silence others from voicing conservative ideals, Bondi said. We will never be silenced, not our families, not our freedoms, and never for Charlie. His legacy will not be erased for fear or intimidation. Of course, of course, of course. When you swat someone, when you dox someone, when you physically threaten someone, of course that's illegal, and of course that's intolerable. It is not illegal to say, I'm happy someone's dead. It's not illegal. Vile, yes. And there is a huge difference, of course, in someone suffering the consequences of losing their job, and many have. I've got stories like it, and I want to be clear, again, it is, and I think people think that I was saying yesterday, some, not most, I think most of this audience totally picked up what I was putting down, but just in case you're happening by the show and you're confused on where I stand here, or you don't totally understand my point, let me be as succinct as possible. When you say vile things like, I'm glad so-and-so is dead, or sorry the assassin in Butler was a bad shot, or whatever, when you say things like that, it's not illegal speech. It's also not technically threatening anybody. It's vile, it's disgusting, it's vulgar, it's celebrating death and all of those things that the left does. We know that. So the question is, what happens to someone who does something like that? Should they be arrested and thrown in jail? Of course not. And we want to be very clear about that. We don't define that as hate speech because the left is who created that term. I don't like using it. It's like using vouchers. I don't like when people talk about school choice as voucher programs. Voucher implies coupon. Voucher implies you're handed something as a gift from someone, when in fact your tax dollars that have been taken from you are simply being given back to you to spend on the education you choose for your child. That's not a voucher. That's not a giveaway. I don't like that word. The left created voucher just like they created hate speech. And we have to not fall into the trap of using the word hate speech. It's a made-up term. Consequences, however, that's a different matter. Societal consequences and the like. More in a minute. Hey, good morning, Minneapolis. Welcome in on The Patriot. Thanks for listening on great radio stations like 1280 AM all over the country. Our telephone number, 855-STIGALL. Thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for supporting and clinging to sponsors like WebRoot, who want to do nothing but protect your online identity and your security, because these guys offering an amazing deal right now to keep you locked away from people that would hack into your systems and really make a nightmare scenario for you. Do you know it takes 100 to 200 hours to fix everything on your own if your identity is stolen or somebody hacks into your systems? What a nightmare. WebRoot exists to ward off just that very thing. You know, TransUnion just confirmed a huge data breach of something like 4 million people a couple of weeks ago. So it's not just enough to have antivirus software and leave it at that. You need all-in-one protection, and WebRoot Total Protection is that. It covers identity protection for up to 10 identities, up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement. They offer you 24/7 U.S.-based customer support. U.S.-based. That's critically important. When you pick up the phone and you're having trouble, good to know that you're speaking to somebody that speaks the English. You know what I'm saying? It's just true. I mean, this is your life we're talking about here. You don't have time to speak through translators. You need somebody that understands what's going on. Also, dedicated elder fraud hotline. This is big. For people that are of a certain age, you understand that there are a lot of sophisticated folks out there that are preying on older folks, trying to confuse them to empty their bank accounts in various ways, really insidious stuff. So they monitor your identity, they monitor the dark web, There's, as I said, a 24/7 call center if you have any trouble. I don't want you to wait on this. This is total protection and even insurance up to $1 million. They will insure your funds if there's any kind of damages and somebody should, in a sophisticated way, get into your system. Not likely, though, with WebRoot Total Protection at 50% off. Don't wait. Get it today. Webroot.com/Chris. Webroot.com/Chris. Let's go to Eric in Los Angeles to kick things off. I was just talking to Jen and Grant yesterday. You know, I'm coming to L.A., what is it, mid-October, I think, for the big town hall event. Really looking forward to that. Scott Jennings is going to be there. The whole team at 8:70 a.m., The Answer. Good morning, Eric. Glad you called.
Good morning. I definitely agree that so-called hate speech is a leftist term. All we have to do is disagree with their narrative, and we're doing hate speech, but they can do all the ranting and raving they want, and it's okay. But you also mentioned that school vouchers is also a left-wing term. I'd never heard that before, and I want to learn something. I'd like to get some details on that.
Well, I can't tell you where voucher started. As a term, I can't necessarily assign the term. I bring that up as an example of just the nomenclature that we all use in common everyday conversation now. When we talk about school choice, I hear politicians all the time talk about voucher, and I just don't. Unless you're talking about a literal giveaway, unless you're talking about a literal tax, that is to say, Medicaid is a voucher to me. Right? Medicaid is people who are in poverty and can't afford this or that. They're given taxpayer dollars. It's a subsidy. They have not necessarily paid into the system, but they get taxpayer money. That, to me, is a voucher. Traditional school choice in most states. Now, this isn't true across the board, but for most people, when you say universal school choice, you pay taxes. Everybody pays taxes toward their school districts, even people that don't have kids in school districts. And so when the government, your state, says you get to take half or some or all of those taxes that you pay to the state or your local school district, you get to take some of that and spend it where you see fit, that's allowing you to keep your own money. That's not a voucher in the classic sense to me. And I think that there's, I know it may sound small, but my point is when we use the word voucher and the left loves to use it, it sounds like a giveaway. The government is handing out money to people to send them to private school. That's not true. What is happening in the vast majority of cases is those of us who pay taxes to public school systems would like to keep some or even all of it and take that money that would be taxed and spend it elsewhere. I don't call that a giveaway. But again, that's an example of the use of words and the way the left starts to inculcate, the vernacular of the country, and then all of a sudden we start saying things like hate speech, hate speech, hate speech. Case in point, yesterday with the Attorney General in number 70.
The anti-Semitism, what's been happening at college campuses around this country is disgusting, it's despicable, and we've been fighting that. We've been fighting these universities left and right, and we're not going to stop. There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. Look what happened. Think about...
All right. So, again, she did walk that back a bit. Just to be fair to Attorney General Bondi, she walked it back a bit. That she says that she didn't exactly mean it that way, but she did say those words. We will target you if you're engaged in hate speech. Who gets to define it? Folks, the reason I'm spending time on this is because it's important. I said it yesterday, and let me just bust it out again. I'm not going to play it all for you because this montage could take up the entire show. Let me just play for you some of the examples of the American left through the years, and not distant years, very recent years, months and years, of the American left talking about speech and what you will be allowed to say or hear. Give me number 17.
You know, I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here.
We do have now some of the sound. As I told you, we're not, and the audience, we're not carrying his remarks live because, frankly, he says a lot of things that are not true and sometimes potentially dangerous.
And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today.
We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms, because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy.
One could watch that and say, well, she didn't give a clear, direct answer. That's okay, because we are not talking about clear or direct issues.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
I mean, basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. There was we thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant.
We're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation.
It is just getting started. So far, he's just giving his normal list of grievances. We don't consider that necessarily newsworthy, and there's a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. So our deal with you is that we will monitor these remarks. If he does say anything newsworthy, we will turn them around and report on that right away. But for now, just know that it's happening and we're not taking it.
But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
At some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members.
If you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful.
But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, and there's the next governor of Minnesota who was about to say there's no guarantee to free speech if you're engaged in hate speech. That is a montage of Democrats through just the recent few years. John Kerry, AOC, Kamala Harris, certainly Mrs. Clinton, Tim Kaine. And don't forget Tim Walz, and Tim Kaine. The most famous, I think, of all of these clips, the most infamous came just a few weeks ago from Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Let's take a walk down memory lane on this one, shall we? 93.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
That's extremely troubling. That should chill you to your core. And God bless Charlie Kirk for continuing to have not only open and civil dialogue that ultimately took his life. Tucker said something yesterday I really agree with. He espoused a creator. He talked about natural rights. He talked about Jesus. And there is nothing about Christianity, by the way, that ordains any of us as God. We do not foist upon ourselves the authority to take away your natural rights, your God-given right to speak freely. We can't do that. Man doesn't grant that to you. God does. That's why guys like Charlie were a threat. And any of us who say, God ensures that you have the right to speak freely and no one can take that from you. Guys like Tim Kaine, people like John Kerry, Mrs. Clinton, Kamala Harris, AOC, certainly the crew over on cable news, Jake Tapper, Rachel Maddow, they get to decide. Tim Kaine gets to decide. Tim Walz gets to decide what is hate speech and what is not. Don't you see? And that's why when Attorney General Bondi says what she said, even if she said it indelicately and she walked it back and clarified it a little bit, we've got to be very resolute, very steely-eyed, very clear. We do not use the words hate speech on our side. Charlie Kirk did not use the words hate speech. Charlie Kirk didn't believe in hate speech. It's a stupid term. We shouldn't use it. And I don't know. I, for one, think that at this time it's an extraordinarily important thing to talk about because there are so many of us so deeply disturbed that Charlie was murdered and so deeply disturbed that there are so many of our fellow Americans. How many, I don't know. I don't think it's most. I talked about this yesterday, but there is a fraction of the American public that is out there saying really vile, awful things. And you say, damn it, you can't do that. Well, they can. Now, don't misunderstand that as not suffering societal, social, political, commercial, professional consequences for saying it. It's just that it's not actionable by law. There is a difference. So don't confuse me as saying no one should ever be punished or lose a job or be cast out of polite society for saying something awful. That's a different matter than putting them in jail. Let's try Alan in California. Hi, Alan.
Hi. So
what's on your mind, sir? Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I do believe in free speech. I think people have the right to have their own opinion about things. But if I find if in my opinion, what they say is vile and disgusting, I'm also allowed to choose not to associate with them or to choose not to employ them.
Exactly right.
I'm not
exactly right.
eliminating
Nope. No, that's a great. I mean, to be clear, and I'll double back and say it again just to make sure everybody's clear where I stand on that. You're under no obligation to hire someone who says vile things. You're under no obligation to keep someone employed who says vile things. You're under no obligation to associate. Your church is under no obligation to allow someone in your pews, in my opinion, who's engaged in that sort of stuff. Look, again. Cultural, societal, political, professional, commercial punishment, exiling people from the public square, turning them into social pariah, costing them their jobs or their reputations in the community for something ugly, vulgar, vile they say on social media. I'm all for that. Naming and shaming in public, that's fine with me. It's just this very significant and very important point, and it shouldn't ever be missed, that we do not codify into law defining speech and what is hateful and what is not, because we aren't always going to be in charge. I wish that weren't the case, but it's the case. More in a minute. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, you have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar. Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple, and he came back and he worked for about a year in practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in on this midweek edition of the Stigall Show. My telephone number is 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here today, 855-784-4255. New edition of the Harumph Society today, the Growing by Leaps and Bounds brand new newsletter. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I offer that to you. If you have not joined us yet, please do so. It's I think it's where some of the great conversation is going on. If you are a conservative and you like respectful dialogue, it doesn't mean everybody's in lockstep with one another, but you actually like to just kind of chat with people who are thoughtful. And again, don't necessarily have to see it eye to eye, but it is respectful. And I'm, by the way, the benevolent dictator of the thing, the official bouncer of the place. So if I ever see that it shouldn't be, although that's never been the case, but if it ever got out of hand, we bounce you, man. That's what I mean. It's not about just... you can do that when it's a private club. You know, that's different than hate speech. But you can maintain decorum and order at the Harumph Society, and we do. But again, it's not been an issue. So go to chrisstigall.com and join us there. You can catch the podcast as well each and every day there. It's linked there. And the SNC app. Get the Salem News Channel app. You can take that along with you wherever you go. Lots of ways to consume this show. Let's head to the phones. Talk to Larry, waiting patiently in Illinois to kick off the hour. Larry, I'm glad you called. Good morning.
Chris, you hit a couple of nerves with me, and they were a good thing.
Good.
When you spoke about, our right to speak out, but we also have the right to not participate, and I think one of your other callers kind of alluded to that. It wasn't long ago that the left, the LGBT whatever crowd, was saying silence is violence, So you couldn't win with these people. And I will tell you why they are so wound up now. I'll give you two old parables. One of them is called, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And the other one is equally interesting if you're a carpenter, and that is the nail that stands up will be hammered down. The reason the Democrats are all wound up, they no longer have the hammer, or rather, shall we say, the gavel.
So smart. That is so smart, Larry. I'm so glad you pointed out silence is violence. That is such an important point. And let me tell you why. For those of you who might be inclined to sit out the public discourse, and you know who you are, and you probably have people like these in your life. And I think the death of Charlie has actually maybe pushed the envelope for these people a little bit. I hope, that's my hope, that coming out of this will be all of the people that you know who are conservative, but I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just I don't really comment on those things. I don't really participate in those things. Or your church. If the leader in your pulpit, whoever that may be, if they're not talking about Charlie right now, what's wrong with them? How do you ignore this? How do you go on about your week and ignore it? I mean, I'm not saying they don't have a good reason. I'm not suggesting you have to pledge your allegiance to Charlie in church or something. That's not my point. But how do you ignore the societal violence and what's going on? And if you're not talking about it, particularly in a house of worship, why? Well, I can tell you why. Because there are a lot of people in the 2025 modern Christian church, and I'm talking about the church global. I'm not talking about your individual place of worship or your individual denomination, but in North America, the church, global, universal, is full of people that just want to put butts in pews. They want to keep their YouTube stream going or what have you, be it monetary or otherwise, popularity, selling books, whatever. They don't want to rankle anybody. They don't want to challenge anything. Weak sauce cannot be tolerated anymore. Sitting on the sidelines can't be tolerated anymore. If you thought, well, if I just keep quiet, maybe they won't come for me. No, not true. And Larry's point, silence is violence. You see how the left wants control of not only speech, they get to define. It's a great game they play. I'm so glad he said this. Gosh, this reminded me. I just love it. They set the terms of what hate speech is, but even for you people that decide, I'm going to try to lay low and not, okay, if they don't know I'm a conservative and I don't tell them how I vote, maybe I'll go under the radar and they'll leave me alone. No, because when things like George Floyd happen and they decide their cause celeb, must be revered and recognized, whatever that may be, you have to show outwardly solidarity with the American left. They force you to do so. Need I remind you of the black square moment, Fast Eddie? Remember the era of the black square on social media?
Unfortunately, all too well, yes. That was a very, very awful time.
Why were people, and it was oftentimes people that you didn't even hear from politically. Maybe they don't even post politics, but they posted the black square. Why, Fast Eddie?
To stand in solidarity with the black community and against the killing of George Floyd. They had to show their support visually.
White ladies that I know in the suburbs that don't speak a lick of politics. They put up things they made on whatever it is. They use their crickets and they get on Etsy and they do whatever it is they do, their wine parties, and all they do is post on social media stuff they've decorated, stuff they've bought. They're as apolitical as the day is long. They couldn't tell you who the vice president of the United States is. But all of a sudden, one day, out of nowhere, up pops a black square from them on their social media feed. And you're like, what the hell is she posting a black square about? I'll tell you why. Because if you didn't, what are you saying? You're not down for the struggle? Are you saying you think George Floyd had it coming? Are you not standing in solidarity with the oppressed? You'd better post that black square or else. And that's not new, of course. The great Rush Limbaugh wrote about this decades ago, the stupid ribbons. I remember Rush used to do a television show. Those of you who are of a certain age, you don't remember it, but those of you who are of a certain age remember it well. Rush didn't particularly like the television show, but he did it well. And one of the great bits that he did was showing up one day, and he just had the entire breast of his jacket was just covered in ribbons, just ribbons of every color, size, shape, and kind, displaying the absurdity of it all. If you aren't wearing the thing, if you're not displaying the thing, the left calls you out anyway. So whether you're speaking or whether you're trying to just keep your nose clean and keep your head down and hope you won't be the center of any negative attention, that's no way to live anymore either, because the left will come for you one way or the other and say, you better step up and participate with us or you're one of them. See the game? So here now, Charlie has been murdered for his speech. And I think, as I've been ruminating on this over the last week, why has it stirred in people such emotion who didn't even know him? Why have people that I typically don't see and hear from on politics at all seem to be posting things in solidarity with Charlie and mourning his death so personally? Why? I think, this is my prayer and hope anyway, that those people that I just mentioned that have been trying to keep their heads down now realize, maybe for the first time, this was the great societal awakening of our time. That no longer can you be silent and keep your head down and not participate, because this movement is coming, that movement being the left. They're steamrolling. They had been steamrolling over all of us. We've tried to politely deal with them. We've tried to politely accommodate them. We've given ground, we've given ground, we've given ground. And people like Charlie finally came along and said, no more. Here's the truth of the matter. DEI is lunatic. Transgender agendas are lunatic. God is real. He is all-powerful. The truth of the Word of God is that upon which I stand, nothing else. And I'm not budging off of that, and I'm not making apology for it. Effectively, that's why Charlie was killed. And I think everyone who has tried to sit this thing out realized, that could be any of us. That could have been my politically active brother or nephew or son, just for speaking. So it's a time for choosing, really. And that doesn't mean we obsessively spend all our time talking about the speech they're using, but rather use our voices and use our speech to amplify and aggressively promote the greatness of this country, the causes that Charlie stood for each and every day and went into the arena of ideas to advocate for in a peaceful, nonviolent advocacy way. We all have the ability to do it every day in big ways and small. So that's the prayer I have, is that next year The midterms are not your typical sleeper. My hope is that a year from now, I've been asking people at the Harumph Society, is this going to be a blip? Will we remember this next year? Most Harumphers said, oh yes, this will be remembered next year and for years to come. I hope so. We'll know soon enough. It will be November 2026 soon enough. And we'll see. Have people on our side or people that have sat it out and been politically agnostic and not participated because they want to get along with everybody, do they now realize the danger they face or not? We will see. I think a great metric will be, will people turn out next year and make sure these lunatics are never allowed elected office again? More in a minute. You know, I haven't heard a lot of chirping about what's going on in Chicago right now as the president surged the FBI and other law enforcement into Chicago. Have you noticed that? That's all totally died down. No more chirping from the mayor about the president trying to help curtail violence in the Windy City as we're looking live this morning at sort of a hazy shot of the silhouette of downtown Chicago. Thanks for listening on The Answer in Chicago on AM 560, or wherever you happen to be listening on great radio stations like it all over the country, or watching that picture on the Salem News Channel. Get the app and watch it for free anywhere you go. Now more than ever, it is so important to have access to voices and information that is not going to be silenced and censored by leftists. And I can tell you, as a proud employee of the Salem Media Group, as it's currently constituted, and I'll certainly let you know if that changes. Odds are if it changes, I won't be here. But until then, happy to tell you that this is a home where free speech will never die. So get that Salem News Channel app, and thanks for listening on, like I said, great radio stations all over the country. Now, if sleep is something that eludes you, your mind is racing at night, you cannot calm down, you can't get your mind to just quiet itself, or maybe you struggle popping awake in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep. That's miserable. Good sleep is so critical for good health, as you know. They say 6 to 8 hours on balance is good for most of us. And so if you can't get that done by yourself, maybe all-natural Z-Factor from the makers of Relief Factor can help you do that. This is not a narcotic. This is not a pharmaceutical product. This doesn't need a doctor's prescription. This is an all-natural, 4 natural ingredients, in fact, in Z-Factor, created by the same docs that made Relief Factor, melatonin and 3 other great natural ingredients that help your mind calm, help you stay asleep, get a restful night's sleep. Best of all, wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, not groggy, like sleep aids so often do. This is none of that. This is just a restful night's sleep Z-Factor delivers, and it's for $19.95, a 30-night supply of it. Take it an hour before bed and see if you don't start to feel yourself slowly drifting off to a quiet, peaceful, restful night's sleep. If sleep has been something you just cannot get done on your own, maybe Z-Factor can help. I hope it does, because I know how maddening it is to not be able to sleep. 800, the number 4 Relief to get your Z-Factor. Like I said, the same people that make Relief Factor make Z-Factor, so you can get them both that way. 800-4RELIEF or ReliefFactor.com. Back to the phones we go. Tracy's in Florida. Tracy, glad you called. Welcome in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for taking my call. When you commented on the black square for George Floyd and, black and white, wrong and right, why aren't we posting a white square for Charlie?
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful point. I mean, why aren't cities burning? Why aren't we rioting, right? Why aren't we behaving in any way the way people behaved after that event? Number one, we don't have a bought and paid for AstroTurf campaign by a mega billionaire like George Soros. That's number one. But number two, we don't demand compliance. And that really is the point. We don't demand compliance. It's not as though we're looking at our friends and neighbors demanding they also. And that's, I want to be clear. That's why when we say, I can't believe that so-and-so said this and such about Charlie Kirk, I want to be careful, because I'm not saying you shouldn't, again, call people out. Do it. If there's a social punishment to somebody who says vile things about Charlie, let it, so be it. If that's what, community standards or professional standards dictate that you got to dispatch with someone who says something vile, I'm all for that. I'm just saying we're not running around demanding solidarity with us. You'd better feel bad or else. You'd better say something nice about Charlie or else. We just don't do that stuff. And I'm proud of that. Let me go to Dave in Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for the call in Florida. Dave's in Pittsburgh.
Chris.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, Chris. It's frightening that Pam Bondi wants to go after hate speech. She's an attorney, and she should know better. Hate speech is something created by the Democrats so they can put you in jail and all of Salem News Channel in jail. Because if they can criminalize hate speech, anything is hate speech. They hate what you say. Anything can be defined as that. It's frightening that Pam Bondi is going after hate speech.
Well, she has, I will be fair to her, she's trying to kind of clarify and straddle the fence on what she said. Here's, God bless her, and thank you for the call, sir. The President of the United States gives Pam Bondi all the credit in the world. I was talking to a friend of mine about this yesterday. President Trump has total faith in Pam Bondi, and he's not moved off of that, not even a little bit. There's something about her that this president is very supportive of, and you and I may not necessarily see it. Maybe you're a fan of hers, not trying to talk you out of it if you are. Maybe, and I continue to say this because I just don't know, maybe there are things she's working on. Maybe there are indictments coming. Maybe there are impaneled grand juries on the way. Maybe by this time next year, we're all going to understand in full why Pam Bondi was so critical to this administration. What are we now, into the 8th, 9th, 10th month of the administration? So far, when Pam Bondi's name comes up, let's just say there's been some frustration. Publicly. This is the Stigall Show. I want to go back, and if you would, guys, get number 83 ready. Actually, no. You know what? Before we go there, let me go to number 78 here. We've been talking this morning, and I guess really the theme of the week, it's interesting that the left has decided that this is also the week that they want to start discussing speech. And I think it's important in light of what's happened. There's never has there been a more important time to discuss what we believe in and why we believe it, and speech itself. What is speech? What does it mean to have free speech? What is the First Amendment? What was Charlie saying? Not what people thought he was saying or implying he said, or what were they making up he was saying? What was it? What were the words he was actually uttering in the public square? And millions of people are going to seek him out for the first time and discovering what he was actually speaking about freely on college campuses. And it wasn't hate, and it wasn't bigotry. It was ideas. Most of all, it was about a loving God. For this, he died. Remarkable courage it took Charlie, knowing the threats he faced, to step into the public arena and keep speaking truth anyway, not in a hateful way, but speaking truthfully. For this, he was killed by the American left. And I keep puzzling as I read that former President Obama was speaking at this same thing. I played earlier for you the diminutive little governor of Pennsylvania who fits in your pocket, Josh Shapiro. All the left now is trying to define speech again. They're effectively trying to take the wheel and jerk it back their way and say, oh, no. Just because Charlie's died doesn't mean the right gets to control what is speech. And technically that's true. But listen to this. Mr. Obama called Mr. Kirk's death horrific and a tragedy, but he said that Americans should still be able to debate Mr. Kirk's ideas, noting several ideas where he disagreed with the conservative activist. Let me ask you something, Mr. Obama. When was the last time you or your ilk or anyone on your side actually debated ideas? Serious question. What ideas is the American left debating with you and me as conservatives right now? Have you heard much of it? Sincere question. Or are they just calling you evil, bad, dangerous, misinformation, and ultimately reaching the conclusion you must be silenced because of it? I played the montage earlier. I'm not going to do it again for time, but I'm just telling you, they don't debate your ideas. Charlie died because they didn't have a better answer for his ideas. The only answer the American left has is to shut you up and maybe even kill you if you're effective enough at it, because they've got nothing to offer the American people. They offer you nothing. The American left offers no solutions. All they offer is ruin and bondage and a culture of death. I would love, nothing would make me happier than to hear a leftist actually step up and tell me why the prescriptions that we offer in public policy for this country are wrong-headed. And by the way, here are ours and why we think the outcome we're offering will give you something better. And the reason they are in political exile right now is because they have not offered anything like that for years. All they've offered is divisiveness. Barack Obama was the author of this division. Barack Obama was the author. He was the quarterback of making the conservatives and the Republicans and those who stood in opposition to the American left other, subhuman, worthy of murder even, and certainly silencing. How do you have a debate with people like these who don't offer you ideas? They just offer you horrible, horrible, horrible perspective, like this Luigi Mangione yesterday. You know, it's so interesting that on the same day we're having discussions about this Luigi Mangione who shoots in the back a health insurance executive. And we know how the American left has celebrated him. There were people outside the courtroom yesterday where New York State terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione were dropped, dismissed, including a first-degree murder count that could have landed him in prison for the rest of his life. There were people outside that courtroom cheering, celebrating. There were lunatic people talking about how great-looking he is. There were women that... I saw a clip last night of a woman that said she's in love with and dating his AI-generated double, and they're having children together. It's sick. Now, it's their right to say it. It's their right to be sick. They can speak freely in the street and say these things if they want, but they're not offering you policy. They're cheering murder. They're not offering you an alternative. Luigi Mangione didn't offer an alternative to expensive health insurance. He just decided assassinating a guy who ran a health insurance company was the option. This screwball that supports trans ideology and his furry boyfriend, we've come to find out, he didn't want to debate Charlie Kirk. He didn't want to speak freely. Nobody was trying to silence him. He wants to silence Charlie because he has no answers. The left doesn't offer us answers. The left offers us death and violence because they have no answers. They don't have a better way forward. And then they say things like this. I mean, in the midst of all of this, speaking of the Mangione trial, here's their news coverage of the event. Give me this ABC whack job yesterday who was in the courtroom, Matt Gutman, number 78, who was relaying to the audience of ABC News what we found out in the back and forth between this murderer and his trans boyfriend. Listen to how the ABC News correspondent framed this. Go ahead in 78.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie.
Yeah, it's a love story. Matt Gutman at ABC News thinks he's just covered a love story. Now, that's mentally ill. That's just a sickness. And I pray to God that there are a lot of people in this country waking up to realizing the American left isn't something to debate. It is something to defeat because they're offering you nothing. That's what they offer you. Assassins are really romantic love stories. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has prompted a whole lot of Americans to realize, albeit belatedly, that this party, the Democrat Party, poses a significant threat to the Republic's stability. And it is astonishing that this understanding comes to millions only now, after decades of this party's reliance on destruction and threats and corruption and riots and violence as its core. The evidence has been clear for a long time, rooted in history going all the way back to the Civil War, when Democrats led the charge for secession and slavery, the Jim Crow South. They enforced segregation through terror there too, disenfranchising and lynching to keep a hold of their power. Even focusing on recent events, the pattern is absolutely unmistakable. Eric Schmidt, the senator, rattled off a list of them just yesterday. Look at the Occupy Wall Street protests of 2011, erupting into violence. This facade of being anti-corporate or whatever, right? That led to police clashes, property damage, international riots that injured scores, killed who knows how many. The Russia collusion lie, all orchestrated by Democrats, total made-up lie that smeared President Trump, his first term, treasonous accusations, all initiated by a campaign, a Democrat campaign that cost taxpayers millions to defend Donald Trump. The shooting at a Republican congressional baseball practice by a Bernie Sanders supporter. Fired dozens of rounds and seriously wounded, nearly killed Steve Scalise. The Black Lives Matter riots, we were just talking about them, caused $1 billion in destruction. The costliest civil disorder on record. Arson, looting, assaults, 25 deaths. Democrat officials cheered it. They downplayed the chaos, justified it. Tim Walz and his wife celebrated it. Symbolic acts of sabotage, like vandalism of Tesla dealerships, keying paint jobs, firebombing the dealerships, all driven by this anti-Elon Musk sentiment. Relentless lawfare against Donald Trump, a flurry of indictments on flimsy grounds, raiding Mar-a-Lago, 2 deadly assassination attempts allowed on Donald Trump. That's my word, allowed. I do believe that. Shootings by leftist transgender individuals, including the massacre at Nashville's Covenant School. The brutal stabbing of that 23-year-old Ukrainian woman on a North Carolina train, a light rail train. The suspect, long criminal history. Met with virtual silence, muted concern from Democrats. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, of course. Democrats openly fueling this. Their posts, their words, all they offer is demonization and create an environment ripe for aggression. The ghoulish celebrations that we're watching, celebrating Charlie's death. Hey, they mocked Rush Limbaugh's passing. They branded him a relic of hate as well. Many expressed dismay that Trump survived his assassination attempt. And now untold thousands celebrate Charlie's assassination. Charlie's murder is horrific, not least because of his profound bond with millions as a relentless champion of conservative principles. It's a loss that's triggered grief and anger all over the world. It is heartening, though, that millions of Americans now are starting to recognize the Democrat Party as a real threat. Yes, it is disturbing that it took a tragedy like this to open so many eyes, but maybe now eyes are open. As Rush Limbaugh said many years ago, the Democrat Party is the biggest hate group in the country. A reality that is etched in generations of violence and deceit. We're watching it right now. No, Mr. Obama, you're not interested in debating ideas. And we know that. More in a minute. Tammy, I'm glad you called. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being kind and humble throughout all your work. And I really appreciate it. Number 2, I want to say the college students that I have raised and been actively involved with trying to get their voice heard as conservatives and Charlie Kirk's work, we are all amazed the amount of people who said, "Who was Charlie Kirk?" Oh, my God. Not only did they not know us, they had kept themselves from some of the best news ever. And I look at the way I have watched NBC, CBS, ABC, and I have asked my children to do the same so they're informed in the sense of this is why you are the way you are. This is why we watch Stephen. This is why we listen to Charlie Kirk, because of what's being preached. And these people don't even know. And I want to push to get Salem News and Newsmax out there so more people get truth. And, of course,
Amen. Oh, bless your heart, Tammy. We're so grateful to have you. Yeah, get that Salem News Channel app. You can watch or listen. And Charlie's show still kicking. J.D. Vance, of course, hosting it. The boys from the Daily Wire were in there yesterday. It's going to be an interesting time to see how Charlie's radio show and podcast evolve. But it's number one out there right now. Yeah, as you say, Tammy, people are more engaged in what Charlie was about and what he had to say than ever before, many finding out for the first time. I should mention, while I'm thinking about it, and I just posted this on X a little while ago, we're donating net proceeds of a project that we're working on here at the Salem Media Group. We created the I Am Charlie shirt and hoodie to show support for Charlie and his mission, and every nickel of the proceeds of the sales of the I Am Charlie gear will be donated to Turning Point USA. This is our chance and if you're feeling like, gosh, I want to do something to be supportive, you're not entirely sure what to do, get yourself one of these I Am Charlie shirts or hoodies. And again, every nickel of the proceeds of the sales of these things go directly to TPUSA. Go to freedomandfaithstore.com, freedomandfaithstore.com. I also posted the link out there. If you want to get it on X, it's there. I'll put it up on Facebook a little later. All right, so freedomandfaithstore.com, or you can just, if you're on X, look for me, and you can find the link right there in my social media. Art in Oregon, I've got about 30 seconds, but they're yours if you want them. Go ahead.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Obama. He's so insignificant now. I mean, look, Kamala Harris lost. Trump won. He just spews half-truths. So he's really insignificant. But I wanted to say, Chris, that I agree with you wholeheartedly about this speech thing. We must have free speech, but it must be thoughtful free speech like Charlie had, and we will succeed despite what has happened. Charlie is a Rush Limbaugh. Charlie is also gosh.
I got you, Art. You said it. I'm sorry. I'm just about out of time. So I'll cut you off there, Art, and say, well said. Yes. I won't say we must have any kind of speech, but I know that Charlie's speech obviously was effective. If we are as informed and learned and well-read and engaged on the issues as Charlie is, we'll win. You're exactly right. Break for news here. Well, I don't know about you, but losing weight is one of those things I have been battling my entire life. Hi, it's Chris Stigall, and trying to keep it off once I've lost it instead of gaining it back, that's also been a very difficult thing. I decided I was going to try something new. I decided I was going to try my PhD weight loss. And I decided I was going to try it because I know personally colleagues and many listeners to the Salem Radio Network that have lost thousands of pounds of weight combined thanks to the My PhD Weight Loss program. So I'm going to call up Dr. Ashley Lucas and the team at My PhD Weight Loss. I'm going to get one of these personal nutrition coaches. I hope you'll join me in this weight loss journey. I hope very soon you and I will be able to brag about all the weight and inches we're losing off our waist. I'd just like to get a little weight off these knees, I'm not getting any younger. It's going to be a lot easier to walk around a golf course this summer. Join me. MyPhDWeightLoss.com is the website, or 864-644-1900. 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Tell them Chris Stigall sent you, and good luck. Here we go. A major retail chain just canceled a massive order, leaving MyPillow with an overstock of the classic MyPillows, and now it's your gain. For a limited time, MyPillow is offering their entire classic collection at true wholesale prices. Get a standard MyPillow for just $17.98, and if you want more, you can upgrade to a queen size for only $22.98. or a king size for $24.98. Snag body pillows for $29.98 and versatile multi-use pillows for just $9.98. Give your bed a whole new pillow set while supplies last. Visit MyPillow.com today. Use the promo code Chris or call 800-932-5056 to score these amazing deals while they're in stock. Plus, when you order $75 or more in merchandise, you'll receive $100 in free digital gifts. No strings attached. That's right, premium pillows at unbeatable prices and bonus gifts to top it off. Don't wait. Head to MyPillow.com today or call 800-932-5056 right now. And don't forget to use the promo code Chris to grab your standard MyPillow for only $17.98 while supplies last. Glad to have you along. Folks, welcome into this midweek edition of the Stigall Show. The I Am Charlie shirts and hoodies with all proceeds going to his beloved Turning Point USA chapters all over the country. If you'd like to get one, people have been asking, what is that link again? Where can I go? Again, every nickel of the proceeds of this is not a commercial endeavor in any way. It is all to go to TPUSA. Go to freedomandfaithstore.com. freedomandfaithstore.com. I also posted that link on X if you want to go there. That's where you can get your I Am Charlie gear. All the proceeds, again, going to TPUSA. Let's bring in our friend Christina Bobb, who now has a formal endorsement. I just saw her in the Oval a couple of weeks ago. The President of the United States giving it 2 thumbs up. Defiant inside the Mar-a-Lago raid and the left's ongoing lawfare, her bestseller now, again with the President's hearty endorsement. Good morning, Ms. Bobb. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. He actually did the foreword for it, so you get a little note from the President himself in the book.
That's so cool. Is he? I'm sure he was pleased with it. Ultimately, it looked like your visit went well.
Yeah, it was great. He's fantastic. We're all grateful that finally we can tell the real story of what happened with the Jack Smith investigations, the Mar-a-Lago raid, all of that. Because as you know, when there's litigation ongoing, you don't want to put stuff out in the public and muddy the waters. And so we had to wait till it was all over. So finally, we can tell our side of the story. So I'm excited that it's out now.
Sunday at the Kennedy Center, Carrie Lake was one of the speakers, and she reminded the crowd, that the lawfare is a real thing that you've all been battling and still are battling. And that, our side, whatever you want to call that, has to be mindful that there are many ways in which the left engages in coming at us. It's not necessarily always gunplay, sadly, that took Charlie's life, but it is lawfare too.
Yeah, no, they try to destroy us in every conceivable way. It started with censorship. They just want to shut us up and kick us off social media and kick us off the airwaves and the, television and all of that. When that doesn't work, then they sue us and try to bankrupt us and try to humiliate us and defame us. And when that doesn't work, they try to throw us in prison and, raise all of these fake criminal charges. And I've experienced all of that. And then when they can't throw us in prison, they can't stop us, they can't shut us up, and they're all upset. They then unfortunately resort to murdering our leaders. So it's very, very real. I'm still a criminal defendant in a case out in Arizona. It looks like it's falling apart. Last week, the Michigan case fell apart. This week, the Georgia case fell apart. I'm hoping Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin are shortly behind.
Yeah, that is the most recent news. The fraud of Fulton County, Fani Willis losing the last chance to stay at the helm of the Georgia election interference case. I'm amazed that was still a discussion. I thought she had been roundly discredited already, but she was still hanging in there, huh?
Yeah, she has been roundly discredited. I think you're right. But yeah, she was still hanging in there, and the courts in Georgia weren't throwing the case out. And the same is true, with most of these prosecutions. They've all largely been roundly discredited. I mean, I think that the Wisconsin case is the most egregious because they filed that after Donald Trump won the election. So it was just like we hate you so much, we're still going to try to ruin your life, bankrupt you, destroy you, even though they knew the people supported Donald Trump. Everything was perfectly lawful and legal. And they're just harassing Trump supporters out of spite and anger. I mean, that's all these people have is spite and anger. So it's so important that the American public understand that these cases are still going on and they're very serious. They're very egregious. I've got friends that have lost their homes and families that have split apart because the pressure was too great. I mean, it's very, very real. This isn't just a mild inconvenience. And so I tell the whole story. I give you all the details of my criminal case, of my case. Dominion sued me for $1.6 billion, and thankfully that case has been dismissed, but I tell you that whole story. I was investigated by the Department of Justice, the FBI, the California State Bar, the state of Arizona, all of it. All the dirty details are in there. Of course, the majority of the book focuses on the Jack Smith investigations, which I was roped into both of those. I was hauled before Congress. I mean, what they do to us it's horrific. It's horrible.
And to be clear, Christina Bobb, again, the bestseller is called Defiant. Grab your book so you can read the blueprint, how these people weaponize and use lawfare to silence. Is that ultimately what you concluded in all of this? This is not about real justice. Yeah. This is about making sure you and anyone like you are made examples of and punished in the public square so that you never affiliate with and help promote the likes of a Donald Trump again. Is that the sum total of your takeaway?
Well, that is lawfare. That's exactly what lawfare is. Lawfare is any case, civil or criminal, that's not brought for just purposes, but it's brought to harass and humiliate and defame. I mean, that is what lawfare is. My conclusion is these people aren't going to stop until they are stopped. They've proven that. And now they're trying to get Donald Trump not to prosecute them, to go light on them and say, oh, let's just let the nation heal. Well, he tried that in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, and far from healing took place. So he can't make that.
Well, can we talk
again.
about? May I jump in on that point, Christina? Yeah. How about Letitia James? Letitia James of New York, the Attorney General, who's now caught up in mortgage fraud assertions.
Yeah.
Number 81 here, if you would, Paul. Play this for Christina. Then I'd love to get your reaction. She's speaking with Joy Reid, who's out of a job herself, by the way. Here we go.
Donald Trump said that he said that he called me all kind of names, and he basically directed the Department of Justice to investigate my affairs. And they're using mortgage fraud as the vehicle upon which they're investigating myself, Adam Schiff, Miss Cook, Lisa Cook, and countless others. And it is, most of it, as you know, is frivolous, it's baseless, because in order to prove mortgage fraud, one has to prove intent. And that's a very high standard, a very high bar to meet.
What I love about that is she's basically not even denying that she fraudulently filled out documents, that she and Schiff and Cook basically we all did. You got us, but you got to prove intent. That's really a remarkable statement, Christina.
Right. And then the other half of that is she's saying, yeah, I did it, but my defense is going to be that I was too stupid to understand what I was doing, which quite honestly might be a fair defense. So either way is fine.
Yeah. We're in a weird place, obviously, to say the least. Weird may not be the right word, but we're in this time where you got people standing outside a courtroom cheering a guy who obviously, in cold blood, shot in the back a man who ran. His guilt is that he ran a health insurance company, and for that he was murdered. And people cheer his murder. Yeah. And at the same time, people like you are dragged through courts of law simply for your, political points of view and working for a candidate. And I think people puzzle in a time like this. How do we reverse course? My answer is we got to win elections and continue to stay in power and relegate these people to the ash heap of political history. Your thoughts?
That's exactly right. And we also have to restore morals to every area of society, whatever industry, family, everywhere. We have to recognize that we have morals. You don't have to have the same religious belief, but we have to hold human life sacred. And I mean, the healthcare CEO is hardly a sympathetic victim when you look at the people all over the world, all over the country, at least, that he denied healthcare for. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a human and doesn't deserve to be murdered in cold blood. There's other ways to challenge his decisions and challenge his company. And when you have people cheering this, it runs very, very cold, and it's a very ugly society to live in. It's a very hostile, unforgiving society, and that is not what we want to build. So we have to call it like it is. Thank you for doing so on your show. And we have to choose. We have to consciously choose to correct our course.
Christina Bobb's book is called Defiant. Because we have limited time, I don't know. Can you stay with me for another segment?
Sure. Anything for you, Chris.
Because bless your heart. I want to get into some Kash Patel from yesterday, and I don't want to rush that. But let me ask you this before we run out of time in this segment, and that is, when I hear people like Barack Obama say, they don't want to use this Charlie Kirk assassination as an attempt to silence us and our ideas, sincere question, what was the last idea you remember the Democrats actually debating?
Oh, Lord. No, they don't.
Do they debate ideas? Do they offer an alternative to what we offer in policy? I don't know that I ever hear it. Sincerely.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I definitely am not familiar with any legitimate debate that I think Democrats have had. I think, I guess
my broad point is, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but my broad point is, there's never a good faith debate about policy. It's that you're a fascist and you deserve jail time.
Yeah.
That's where they always go, right?
And that's right. And they have come so far left that they've lost every issue. I mean, they're so far left at this point that everybody is to the right of them. And so, those are the people in power are extremely left. And so when everybody is to the right of you, you can't really debate policy because nobody agrees with you. You're never going to win that debate. And so they resort to totalitarianism, which is what we're seeing with election fraud and murder and assassinations, attempting to kill Donald Trump. They have to resort to totalitarian tactics because they don't have anything else.
Her book is called Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. The brilliant Christina Bobb, attorney with Judicial Watch now, former Trump attorney. And when we get back, some Kash Patel testimony yesterday. It was fiery in the Senate. We'll get a reaction. Hang on. Kash Patel, FBI director on Capitol Hill yesterday. It got heated. The shifty senator from California, Adam Schiff, and Kash Patel with this back and forth. I wanted to get your reaction to it, Christina.
I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates.
Not in the weeds.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at...
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything Kash said, but my question for you, Christina Bobb, is I want you to grade for me DOJ right now. I want you to grade for me Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, who notably have been making the rounds recently. Pam Bondi coming under fire this week, some comments she made about hate speech. Yeah. What about these three? Because now there are reports that there's infighting in the whole, and it's just an interesting time for those three, and I wonder how you read it.
Yeah. I think they're doing great. I know it's not perfect, it's not easy, but I think they're doing as well as anybody could in that position. They're in a very difficult position in the sense that they are charged with leading an agency that doesn't support them. All of them, all three of them have to work with agents and operatives who are trained in deception and don't support their views. They have to figure out who they can trust, who they can't trust. And a lot of times you don't even know, you can't tell who's deceiving you and who's not. You give someone an assignment, why isn't it working? You don't know. And so I want to give them a lot of grace in the sense that they have a very, very hard mission right now. I think they are doing as well as they can. I do want to see a little bit more out of them. I want to see some more Adam Schiff. I mean, we've heard that they have conclusive evidence that he lied under oath. He lied about intelligence. He also, I think mortgage fraud is one of his things as well, claiming he lived, his primary residence was in DC when he was a California senator. So I want to see charges brought. I want to see these people brought to justice. So that's an area where, I'll reserve my judgment and say, okay, what are they doing? But I think they're doing as well. Who can do it better, So
can you? You know the president pretty well. You've worked with the president legally in a legal capacity. Pam Bondi is close to this president. I often see her physically with him. He has full faith in her. Is there something there that we don't see? We're not privy to. He has full faith in her for some reason that we just don't all fully see yet or understand. Is that something?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the president, but from my relationship with both of them, I know both of them well. I think he trusts her because she's been very loyal. She's incredibly smart, very capable. She was the Attorney General of Florida. She knows how to do this job. And I think she's just been loyal when most people ran for the hills. And I'll remind everybody that in 2020, she stayed loyal to him. She went to Pennsylvania to fight for transparency in Pennsylvania in 2020 when all of President Trump's legal team were abandoning him. And so she's proven herself to take on fights that are hard. Nobody wanted to fight the 2020 election. I mean, quite honestly, that's how I got connected to the president, was because I was willing to do the same thing, and when most people weren't. So she's proven to take on tasks that are very hard and unpopular and stay truthful and loyal to him. And I think that's incredibly important in this environment.
So, Christina, with 30 seconds to go, this is the reason we feel like maybe we're not seeing foot on the gas pedal action out of DOJ, you believe, is because inside it is a deep state culture resistant to their every effort. Is that about right?
I think that's a large part of it. Yeah, I think there's procedural issues. I think there's internal issues. But yeah, when you have to try to run an agency that isn't supportive of your mission, I think that causes some real serious problems. So I think that's the vast majority of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people always feel like, Bill Barr, I had high hopes for Bill Barr, for instance, and that didn't pan out. You know what I mean? And Jeff Sessions, who I think is a good man, it's like DOJ swallows these people whole somehow. It's very frustrating.
That's the perfect description. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Christina Bobb, she is talking, and she's got a great book. It's a bestseller called Defiant. Go pick it up. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And we'll be back in a bit. A caller earlier today, I think it was Larry. I'm not sure who it was, from Illinois, I think. I want to give due credit to a caller who earlier reminded me that the left, one of the left's favorite phrases is silence is violence. And I thought that was so smart, because basically what we have found is that today in 2025, Democrats will say violence is speech and silence is violence. You follow that? They're actually out there suggesting that their violence is speech, and that anybody discussing their vile behavior and calling it out is somehow an attack on their speech. Again, social consequences are different than laws being passed or jailing someone for saying something. You lose your job because of it? People like S.E. Cupp over at CNN. Listen to number 72 here. This is over at CNN, talking about people losing their jobs over the things they've been saying. Vile stuff about Charlie's death. Here we go.
It's illiberal, and it's the opposite of what Charlie Kirk would have wanted. Charlie Kirk was a debater. I didn't like what he said, and I was offended by what he said. That's all right. It's not illegal. It's not a crime to offend someone. And yeah, I think this is the opposite of what we need. And we're just as violence is the opposite of what we need to counteract speech we don't like. We need more speech, not less. When we meet speech we don't like, we meet it with more free speech. We have to debate our ideas.
Okay, so that's all fine. That's all fine, S.E. Cupp. But as a communicator myself, I don't get to just come here on the show and say anything I want and not reap the consequences of it if it's something that is culturally, socially, commercially, professionally unacceptable. I can lose my job if I'm not responsible with the opportunity I've been afforded with this microphone. That doesn't mean I'm not legally allowed to say it in the country, but the Salem Media Group, the people that cut my check, have the discretion to say, sorry, Stigall, you're out. Can't have that. Sean Spicer knows what I'm talking about. He's a professional communicator, former White House press secretary. You can catch the Sean Spicer Show on any host of platforms, from YouTube to Rumble to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. He's on X at Sean Spicer. That's the difference, Sean, as we talk about speech. Yes, speech is free and we want to keep it that way, but it doesn't mean you don't suffer consequences if you've run afoul of community guidelines, standards, professionally, culturally, in your community, what have you. Good morning.
Good morning. I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a difference. Like, I am a huge free speech activist. And what I mean by that is that if you actually believe in the First Amendment, you have to be willing to defend that which you abhor. And I am. But I also think, as the Supreme Court has held, when you yell fire in a crowded theater, that's where it crosses the line. And when you incite people to commit violence, then you are impinging on my freedom of speech. Because if I don't feel safe expressing myself because I know that you're going to come for me or my family or attack my house or something like that, then I'm going to be less inclined to speak out because you've scared me. So one thing to say I disagree with Sean or Chris or Charlie. It's another thing to say let's go get them, or let's they should be killed or whatever. That's crossing the line. And I do think that that's the difference. But the broader point, and it's funny that you led with this because I had Ted Cruz on my show last night, who's just a brilliant litigator and legal scholar as well as a conservative senator. And he was like, let's role play this. You walk into your employer and say, you suck. That's protected speech. You can't go to jail for it, but you'll probably get fired for it. And so if you're a knucklehead that thinks that posting about violent behavior where you've got your employer's name or whatever on your bio, or again, to Senator Cruz's point, if you walk in and say stupid stuff, is it illegal? No. But is it inappropriate and probably going to get you fired or canceled? Yeah. And that's the difference, Chris, is that they can't, what this argument, and I wrote a column, it's free, so I'm not trying to, at SeanSpicer.com, because I've been grappling with the left and the media who keep saying both sides, both sides, both sides. And as I dumbed it down, I said, that's like Spicer saying, I want to go to lunch, Stigall saying, I want to go to lunch, and saying, see, both sides want to go to lunch. Well, you are who you are, so you want to go to the Capitol Grill and have a big surf and turf, expensive steak. I know the Chris Stigall thing, and I'm more of a Wendy's kind of guy, or I'm going to get the value meal. So again, just because so they'll point to an instance and say, oh well, there was political violence on this day or that person, and so therefore it's the same. And this gets back to your point. I don't mean to be long-winded, but this is where I'm as I wrestle with this both sidesism. We are being canceled for merely existing. So by supporting Donald Trump or the MAGA movement or conservative policies, they're saying we're canceling you, we're censoring you for that, for your mere existence and thought. I'm canceling them or coming after them because they actually want to incite violence. It's not even so much about what they're saying, it's the actions they want to take. And that's the distinction that the left and the media, the Chuck Todds, the Politicos, the New York Times don't want to accept. They create the problem. And then they want us to see it's just like you guys.
I have Sean Spicer's show, by the way, today and every day. Get it? It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. Go to the Sean Spicer website or on X, Sean Spicer. That's SEAN, Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary.
Is there another way to spell that?
Well, sure. SHAWN.
Oh, we real Seans don't accept that. That's just not.
Sean Farash spells it that way. He does a wildly popular Trump impression,
By the way, I will tell you, speaking of him, I have something in store. He is supposed to come on my program shortly, and we have schemed up something very, very I'll just leave it at that. To your point about
I'll say this. He's part of the Salem Podcast Network now, Sean Farash, so we welcome him aboard. But here's my point. I have been doing news talk, conservative talk, whatever you want to call this that we're doing. I've been doing this now. This is my 20th year. And I will tell you that I have never once met someone on the left say, oh, Chris, I listen to your show, but I don't want anybody to know, or I just feel bad about speaking up at work. But I have heard it year after year after year for 2 decades from conservatives. I love your show, but I put my earbuds in so no one at work can hear. Oh, I'm scared to death to speak up. It's always us. It's only been us that have been silenced and sidelined.
Everything is one direction. Everything.
Yes.
Academia, Hollywood, big tech, corporate America. You name it, it's owned by the left, and it goes in one direction. To your point, I made this comparison the other day. We have a little show every morning on my YouTube channel called The Morning Meeting. We take questions from around the world. It's sort of, the equivalent of talk radio, but worldwide and just online. And this college student came on. He said, I've kind of middle-of-the-road Republican, but, both sides. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you a question. If I went down your campus, he was in school in Florida, and I said, and I had a Biden or Harris or Obama T-shirt on, would anyone say anything or harass me? And he was like, no. And I said, okay, well, what if I put a MAGA hat on? And he goes, it's not as bad as it used to be. And I was like, it's close. But to your point, that's the difference, is that we are, it might not be as bad, but it's still bad. On their side, you can go anywhere, in any city, in any place, and the difference, by the way, somebody said to me the other day, I said, because I love this example because on college campuses, it's so, and I said, there isn't a college that I've spoken at Penn, Berkeley, UMass, all over, University of, I think it was Southern Illinois or something. And in every place I'm met with armed security. And so I said to someone, do you think that a Democrat would have the same problem? And someone said, well, Ilhan Omar might not be welcome. And I said, you realize the people who'd be protesting Ilhan Omar aren't Republicans or conservatives. They're her own party. That's the difference. There isn't you can't name anybody who would go on campus on the left, on any campus. And somebody said, oh, well, what about conservative campuses? I said, are you kidding me? If you walked on the grounds of Hillsdale or Liberty, they'd probably be the most welcoming. Those kids, I've been there many times, and they are kind, welcoming.
Let me speak to that point, Sean Spicer. You better than anybody, as the first White House press secretary for this highly charged national debate surrounding a figure like Donald Trump, you know better than anybody to be in the spotlight. I don't want to exacerbate this for you, but I would imagine you don't complain about it. I've never once heard you whine about it, but I would imagine you think deeply about some of the hate that's been directed to you over the years and your family. If we're to be honest, yes?
I mean, and you're a public figure as well, so you know that this is, I whine about a lot of other things, so not that. But
don't I know it?
Exactly. You're like, maybe you do whine about it, but all I hear is the other stuff. But the thing that's so interesting to me is you're right. I don't, for a lot of reasons, I don't like to talk about it because I don't want to encourage it either. But, I will say this, I wrote about this in my book, my first book, so I can say it pretty publicly now. But during my time in the White House, somebody put our house for sale. That's the kind of and by the way, I will just say that this is not, when I say it wasn't just as a joke. They literally, let's just say the listing was not favorable to a nice person. It had some very inappropriate descriptions of the current tenants. What we, current, of the inhabitants, which was me. And so nobody, it's just to your point, part of the problem is that the left and the media, which is the same, don't understand it because they can't imagine it. What do you mean? I've never felt this. And so right now, this is the first time ever that the left feels this a fraction of what it's been like forever. And so they're like, oh, this is inappropriate. Did you see, I don't know if you know her or saw it. I know there's a ABC anchor in Illinois by the name of Betty Ray Harmony, who is I've known her. She's through the years. She's always wanted to be in journalism, got a job, worked her way up, and she gave this most moving tribute to Charlie. And it was completely like Charlie Kirk was a friend. He helped blah, 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 blah. And she ends this tribute, she's on air, and she says, by just reminding you, be kind to one another, wherever your positions are, have dialogue. We need dialogue, kind of the Charlie Kirk message, and just said, we need to be kinder and hear each other more. That's what Charlie's always wanted, and she was very emotional. They suspended her, and then she quit. But for that, not because she said Charlie Kirk is great and Charlie Kirk's message has got to be echoed. She just said, he was a friend of mine. He was killed. It hurts me. And I think that we should all be willing to talk to each other and listen to each other more, if any. And that's it, full stop. There, again, I posted the video, so if you disagree with me, you can go watch it. But the bottom line is, that's the thing where the left is offended because and I don't think this station realized the backlash that was going to come. But that's us, you, me, every day. We face it, and I think that the left just can't. They're like, well, how is this happening? The idea that an ABC News reporter yesterday posted that he felt that whatever the message. Oh,
you thought it was romantic, yeah. Sean, I got to skedaddle. I'm grateful for you.
I thought it was called
the
Chris Stigall Show. It's yours.
Catch you today. See you later. It's the Sean Spicer Show. Later. Chad, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Welcome in.
Thank you so much for accepting my call, Chris.
Yes, sir. Glad you did.
So I went to church on Sunday, and, I went back to church because I was hurt about Charlie. I watched him a lot daily. And to my shock, my church didn't even mention him. They just said something bad happened. It was almost like a lie of omission, like the the left media does. It just left it out. So I started researching and going in and watching all these churches in my area and finding the ones that didn't, and reaching out to them and thanking them for doing the right thing, first of all. And so many of these pastors have contacted me back and talked to me. And I'm trying to do this on a wider scale because people need to know, if their church is about politics or about Jesus. And Jesus would want us to pay respects.
Chad, may I ask, and I don't mean to be personal, I'm just curious, have you've been away from the church for a while?
About 4 months. I watch it online for months due to my life and some circumstances that are going on in my life. So I watch online services, but not in person.
Are you trying to get back to a church in person?
Yes, and I want to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Well, a Bible-believing church that's preaching the gospel, first things first, making the Bible the main thing, that's also critical. That's the most important thing. But boy, I think that is a really significant and smart thing you've said. There are a lot of churches out there that are talking, but what are they preaching? And that's really sophisticated, Chad. I'm glad to hear you're in communication with people of the Word who are steeped in the Word. And I want a report back, please, Chad. Keep in touch and let me know when you find a church home. I'd love to hear that. Thank you so much. I think that's going to be one of the most indelible legacies Charlie will leave. The number of people that are pouring into houses of worship, Bible-believing churches. There is a difference. Not every church is a Bible-believing church. Not every pastor in the pulpit is speaking the truth of the Word of God. Some of them are turning the other way and ignoring the LGBTQ mafia movement simply to cater to getting butts in the pews and that sort of thing. So it's critically important that, yes, just like anything else, just like our institutions, just like our public schools, churches and the people leading them deserve scrutiny too. Scott's in Wisconsin. Thank you very much, my friend, for the call. Scott, good morning. Thank you for waiting. Hi.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. My comment is about the Obama debate of ideas idea that he seems to be saying, which one more thing that I don't believe him about. If you just look at the last election cycles, 2-3 election cycles, whether it's presidential election down to, or the statewide here in Wisconsin Senate or gubernatorial or my local House election, the Democrats do not want to debate. They will only debate 1 or 2 times just because they think they have to. The Republican is always, let's debate 6, 7, 8, 9 times because we want to expose them for the ideas that they really cannot defend. And so that, I guess that's really my comment.
It's 100% true. It's the question I've been asking myself this morning. It just kind of dawned on me. It's not necessarily profound, but I appreciate you underscoring the point I've been trying to make this morning, Scott, is when was the last time you heard a Democrat actually debating the merits of any issue? Ed, you pay a lot of attention to leftists. I just don't. I don't waste a lot of my time with it these days because I don't think that's a good faith effort usually that most of them are putting forward. Do you ever hear them debate a substantive policy? Really? Rather than character assassination, actually say, here's why I think going this direction on policy is better. Here's why. You ever heard? I mean, any issue. I'll take it.
Gun control is the most recent. That's the one they've been piping up about leftism, at least leftists on my feed, at least, is about gun control.
Yeah. Which, that's a non sequitur, of course. They've been trying to make it out to be some sort of, in fact, Jasmine Crockett, who I'm not going to bother playing, actually said it had to be a right-winger that killed Charlie because we leftists aren't good with guns. Well, I mean, that's not true. Eric Schmidt rattled off a laundry list of instances where that's not the case. And, of course, he wasn't a right-winger. But anyway, I digress. Have a great day. Thanks for being with me. See you tomorrow. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.